What is up, YouTube? My name is Alex Benega, and in today's video, I'm going to go over a common question that I get asked a lot, which is what is the difference between a web designer and a product designer? Is there any difference? What type of work are you doing if you're a product designer? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? And if you're a web designer, what does that look like? Are they the same thing? Are they different? I'm going to be going over that in today's video. So let's dive straight into this. So to give you guys some context, I've been a web designer. In the beginning of my early days, all I did was focus on websites. I would do landing pages for various startups. If there was a big company and let's say they were doing a conference, they would reach out to me and say, hey, we need one landing page. We need it to look solid. We need it to look good. Can you do it? And I would go into Photoshop back in the day before Sketch was around, and I would, lay down stuff on a Photoshop canvas, and I would create a website, right? And then I might do something with a mobile design. And I'll show you an example here. I'm on Dribble a lot, so if you guys want to follow me there, I would appreciate it. But this is what I was doing back when I was just a quote unquote web designer, right? I would do things that just pertain to the website itself. I wasn't diving into anything beyond just the pages that live on a website. So this was actually, this was about 3 years ago, before the term product designer really got thrown around. But this is what typically a web designer does. They go and they get a canvas, right? They get tasked with doing a landing page. Maybe it's a whole revamp of a website that's live on the web, or maybe a client might shoot over some documents with all the content laid out, and that's what you're doing. And then it's up to you as the designer to make it look pretty, make it look good, right? So as a designer, I had to, figure out that I wanted some sort of color splash in the hero, but I also wanted it to be simple and clean. So I abstracted this photo. I had to actually find a VR headset. I took the background out using Photoshop techniques, and then I laid that there. I had to create this little icon for the arrow, and just things like that. Those were tedious little tasks that I had to do. I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. And that's what I was doing when I was doing websites. So like also laying out sections too. Like if you notice, no section is really the same, right? This has a photo on the left side with a little bit of a border around it, and then the contents to the right. And then I switch it up with content to the left, photos on the right. Then I center everything. So you're also playing with layout construction as a web designer. And that's something you'll be doing a lot, because imagine if you just saw a website where everything was laid out the same. It was photo left, content right, all the way down the page. No uniqueness to it, no custom illustrations. There's also filters on these photos, right? So this is black and white, very minimal. These are just placeholders. So that's another thing I was doing as a web designer, was finding photos online to basically show the client what their website would look like and feel like once it was live on the web. And if I didn't have the content, I had to plug in content with fake text. So a lot of Lorem Ipsum. If you're a web designer, you're going to be on that Lorem Ipsum website almost every day. And I use this. I've been using this now for years. But basically, I don't even know how to say it, lipsum.com. Not hard, but you can generate unlimited paragraphs, which is fake text, and I use that a lot. And then I would also populate this. These actually are photos that I got from a web design agency called Focus Lab, and these were team members of that team. And I just pulled that because they got high definition photos. This company, or I think back in the day when I was doing this, the company they were going to take really high professional photo shots, just like this design firm did. And so I showed them what it would look like. And that's what I was doing. And if we go back, and I can show you more, I was doing other landing pages. This was one for a what was it? A resort. So this was more just same thing, right? Finding the photos, plugging in fake content, finding a way to make this website stand out, feel unique, right? I had to put this little texture on the bottom right here. And that's what I was doing as a web designer, specifically focusing on web pages and stuff like that. As I progressed as a designer, I got tasked with doing I got tasked with doing different tasks besides the website. So then I moved on to actual interfaces. And interfaces are a lot harder to me. Okay, maybe some people it's night and day and it's easy to do products and it's hard to do websites. For me, I spent so much time on websites that I just was able to pick up. I was able to pick up little things that other really good web designers were doing. I would steal concepts, apply my own style to it, and I kind of got the gist of it. Product design, on the other hand, was a lot harder. This is actually one of my first product designs that I did. and it's totally different. The best way I can describe it is a web designer. If you're just a web designer, you're doing the website, the pages, and all that. If you are a product designer, you are doing the product that you usually typically see once you're logged into the product. So if there's typically with a Facebook or a Twitter, or if there's any social networks out there, even a Gmail, right? There's usually a splash page that comes up that tries to sell you on logging in, signing up, subscribing to a service. And as a product designer, you're actually coming up with those input fields. You're coming up with what the user would see once they're in your website, once they've logged in with an account, once they put their email in and their password and they've done all that fun stuff and they're in the app. That's what a product designer is responsible for. You're no longer really trying to make things look pretty. You're really trying to make things usable. You're really trying to make things where someone can come in for whatever reason, whether it's Facebook and you want them to interact and friend people that they haven't seen for years, or it's Twitter and you want them to read content and digest new articles and content from random people and follow people. That is a product designer. And I'm not just a random person, going over this topic. I worked at Pinterest as a specific product designer on the unauth team and mobile team. And it was night and day with the task when I was actually full time as a web designer. And I'll go into a little bit of that, little bit more of the Pinterest role and all that. I am going to keep this video under 10 minutes, but I just want to talk about that real quick. But this right here, what you're seeing in front of me right now, was one of my first explorations into product design. Someone reached out. It was a way different task than a website, right? Because you're dealing with a lot more icons, right? The navigation is going to be different. You're dealing with real data that you're really trying to show your users. Another thing is you're usually dealing with a lot of charts and numbers and a lot of content. Right now, I'm going to pull up right now. I'm going to show you guys two things. First thing I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to go over, let me pull this up. This is actually a client of mine, and I actually redid their whole internal app just over the winter break. Was this a deck? No, here we go. So I got tasked with recreating the Nabis product during Christmas a few months ago. And this is what I got hit with. We basically are a startup. We have this product where their company is basically in charge of monitoring the way weed gets distributed. So Amazon, but for weed. So if you are a cannabis seller and you grow a bunch of weed, basically what this product does and this company does is Nabis allows you to track your drivers as they're delivering the weed from their warehouse to the local shops that normal people go and buy them from. So I got tasked with redesigning their whole app, making it feel more like their brand. This was one of the pages that I got tasked with. So, you're dealing with navigation, numbers. This isn't about making it look pretty, but if you're a good product designer and not trying to boast my own tail or anything, but if you're good, you can kind of incorporate both. You can incorporate the usability factor plus making things look pretty, right? So they had a whole brand redesign. So we stepped away from this lime, bright, ugly neon green, and we kind of stepped it down to the tone that their brand designer, came up with. So this is the new and improved dashboard, right? All the components are still there. You can still, order, but in this version, there's a lot more content that the user can see, and that's really what the task was when I was redesigning the product for Nabis. And you can see funds that's occurring. You can see which drivers en route, who hasn't delivered, SKU. You can see which drivers are available for hire and available to basically move around and work that day. Delivery history. So if you want to check your whole delivery history because maybe, I don't know, a package or two was missing, you can see who is in charge of that. You can see unscheduled deliveries for today, in progress deliveries for today, and then completed deliveries. And so there's a lot of content, and that's the main thing that I want you guys to take away. You can see from I'm a product designer. I worked on this a few months ago. This isn't me talking about something I worked on, 5 years ago or heard someone work on. This is stuff I get paid to do full time as a UI UX product designer. I still do both. That's the really cool thing about it is if you excel in one, right? So I really got my I don't know, like my marketing or visibility online through my websites. Everyone came to me for websites in the beginning, and then I was able to branch out. And being a product designer really increases your ability to ask for more cash, ask for more money. If you want to work for equity, you can ask for more because you can bring a lot more to the table than just making a website look pretty. Now you can increase conversion, you can play around with sales. You're almost becoming a visual salesman for the company you're doing work for, that they're going to pay you once to do, and they can basically reap the rewards forever if the product that you designed is good enough. So the main thing that I want you guys to take into account, if you're just getting into UI UX and you're like, what is the difference between a web designer and a product designer? Web designers usually create websites, the stuff that you see when you're not logged into an app, and a product designer creates what's inside the app. Once you've logged in, everything you see is usually worked on by a product designer. You can be both. I'm both. And if anyone told you you need to, focus only solely on one and you can only excel in one, they're completely lying to your face. And I'd run away and get as far away from that person as possible because they obviously just don't want you to make money in the design field and they want you to just stay in your little box. But you can absolutely do that. I do that. I love it because product design is a little less fun, right? You're not going to be as creative. Buttons need to stay where they usually are so the user can. People are interacting with so many apps these days. They kind of get a sense of where the buttons are, the modals, the drop downs, all that. So you don't want to recreate the wheel. Whereas a landing page, you can kind of go as crazy as you want, and it's almost the crazier the better in the web design world, as long as it's still legible and understandable. But it's not so much in the product design world. So if that makes sense, but I'm here to happy to answer any questions you guys have. My email is below. I've been doing this now for over 6 years, relatively young still. I'm 23. I've been doing this since I was 16. I worked at Pinterest, worked at over 20 Y Combinator startups, worked at Jelly full time. So I'm not just a random kid off the block that does, Fiverr gigs and now we're here talking on YouTube. So if you guys have any questions or need help in this field, go ahead and email me in the email below. But until next time, YouTube, I'm out.